rebellion. He also told me a little bit about his own recovery and what had preceded it. A friend of his, a prominent American businessman, having exhausted all of the cures of note in the United States, had 2 or 3 years earlier taken himself to Europe, where he was put under the care of Dr. Carl Jung. Dr. Jung was one who thought that man was more than $2 worth of chemicals, a bundle of instincts, and a certain amount of intelligence. He thought that man had a soul. Nevertheless, after a whole year's treatment, Hazard again relapsed on leaving the doctor. Returning, he had asked if there was any further hope. He had thought the doctor to be his court of last resort. And Dr. Jung, a great and humble man, said, "Roland, my art cannot save you. But there is one other resource. That is a spiritual experience. Something that will transform you, expel this compulsion, and enable you to do what you couldn't do before." So Hazard had brought this message to Ebby. It was much the same kind of a message that I had received from Dr. Silkworth. I was hopeless so far as my own resources were concerned, and this message coming to me through this new channel intensified my depression. Now again, I must make the point that on his second visit, Ebby made no attempt to evangelize me. He just stuck to his own story, and then when this was finished, he took his departure. When he went, I sunk into the most unbearable depression that I had ever known. I suppose that momentarily at least, the last vestige of my prideful obstinacy was crushed out. I was just a child, crying alone, very alone, in the dark. For the extremity of this agony, I can find no words. And then I remember crying out, "If there is a God, will he show himself?" And then came the miracle, the great central experience of my whole life. The room instantly lit up in a blinding glare of white light. I was seized by an ecstasy such as I had never known. It seemed to me that I then stood on a mountaintop where a great clean wind was blowing. I thought to myself, but this is not air, this is spirit. This is the God of the preacher. How long I remained in this state, I just cannot say. And again, I have no words to describe what it was like. At length, however, I found myself on the bed, but now I was in a new world. A world in which everything was right, despite the wrongs of the world I had been living in. I felt myself filled with the consciousness of the presence of Spirit, of God. A great peace stole over me. And there I laid and reveled in this new and loving consciousness.
Yes.
At length I became truly frightened. I thought I was hallucinating. So I called Dr. Silkworth, told him the story as best I could, and said to him, "Doctor, am I hallucinating? Have I gone crazy?" He questioned me. And at length, he said, "No, Bill," he said, "you are not crazy. Some great psychic event has occurred. I can feel it. I can see it, but I can't define it. Whatever it is, it's much better than what had you only an hour ago.
Hold on.
And you'd better hold on to what you have." Well, this was great news to me. The next big piece of news came in the form of a book brought to me by my friend Ebby on his next visit. This book was written by William James and was called Varieties of Religious Experience. Though the experiences were of many kinds, I at once saw that they'd had transformed people, and that nearly all of these experiences in this book had to do with people who had found themselves in an utterly hopeless state. A state of mind or existence where there was no way around, under, or over. Well, this was what had happened to me. And in this book, I found experiences similar to my own. And best of all, the great William James thought that these experiences had objective reality. Following the reading of this book, there came to me a vision of a chain reaction among alcoholics, in which each recovered man would come to the next